The differences between Hinduism and Buddhism are vast and nuanced, reflecting their historical origins, philosophical frameworks, practices, and cultural impacts. Here is an outline of their distinctions, divided into thematic sections to explore the details in depth. 1. Historical origins. Hinduism, one of the oldest religions, dating back to at least 1500 BCE, evolved over millennia through the synthesis of Vedic traditions and local cultural practices. Has no single founder or point of origin. Buddhism, founded by Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha, in the 5th to 4th century BCE, emerged as a reform movement within the broader cultural and religious landscape of ancient India. Explicitly critiques and diverges from certain Hindu practices. 2. Core philosophical foundations. Hinduism, polytheistic with elements of monotheism and monism. Central concepts include dharma, duty, karma, action and its consequences, moksha, liberation from the cycle of rebirth, and the caste system, varna. Emphasizes the interconnectedness of Atman, individual soul, with Brahman, universal soul. Buddhism, non-theistic, does not emphasize a creator god. Centers on the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path, which outline the nature of suffering, dukkha, and the way to its cessation. Rejects the concept of an eternal soul, Atman, focusing instead on anatta, non-self, and anicca, impermanence. 3. Sacred texts. Hinduism. Foundational texts include the Vedas, Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita, and epics like the Mahabharata and Ramayana. Rich and diverse corpus spanning philosophy, rituals, mythology, and ethics. Buddhism. Texts vary by tradition. Theravada canon, Tipitaka, Mahayana sutras, and Vajrayana texts. Focus on the Buddha's teachings, his life, and commentaries by disciples. 4. Gods and worship. Hinduism worships a pantheon of gods and goddesses, including Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, Lakshmi, Sarasvati, and Durga. Rituals, festivals, and temple worship are integral. Buddhism does not emphasize deity worship. Focus on meditation, ethical living, and the veneration of the Buddha and Bodhisattvas in Mahayana traditions. 5. Ritual practices. Hinduism includes daily rituals, puja, fire sacrifices, yajnas, pilgrimages, and life cycle ceremonies. Practices vary widely across regions and sects. Buddhism emphasizes meditation, mindfulness, chanting, and monastic discipline. Rituals and practices differ between Theravada, Mahayana, and Vajrayana traditions. 6. Views on liberation. Hinduism, liberation, moksha, involves the realization of unity with Brahman and escaping the cycle of rebirth, samsara. Achieved through various paths: devotion, bhakti, knowledge, jnana, action, karma, and meditation, dhyana. Buddhism, liberation, nirvana, is the cessation of suffering and the extinguishing of desire and ignorance. Attainable through the middle way, following the Eightfold Path. 7. Caste system. Hinduism, historically linked with the caste system, varna and jati, dictating social hierarchy and duties. Criticized for perpetuating inequality, though modern reforms have sought to address these issues. Buddhism explicitly rejects caste distinctions, emphasizes equality and the potential for enlightenment for all beings. 8. Ethical systems. Hinduism, dharma varies by caste, stage of life, and personal circumstances. Emphasizes fulfilling one's duty and maintaining societal order. Buddhism, universal ethics based on the 5 precepts, refraining from killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, lying, and intoxication. Focuses on personal responsibility and compassion. 9. Cultural spread and influence. Hinduism, predominantly practiced in India and Nepal, deeply integrated into Indian culture, art, and social structure. Buddhism, spread across Asia, adapting to diverse cultures, e.g., Zen in Japan, Tibetan Buddhism. Global presence as a philosophy and spiritual practice. 10. Divergence in goals. Hinduism, diverse goals, from worldly prosperity, artha, and pleasure, kama, to spiritual liberation, moksha. Buddhism, singular focus on the cessation of suffering and attaining nirvana. The rituals in Hinduism and Buddhism differ significantly in their purpose, practice, and symbolic meanings, though there are some overlaps due to their shared cultural heritage. Here's an expanded exploration of rituals in both traditions. Rituals in Hinduism. Hindu rituals are diverse and vary across regions, communities, and sects, but they generally focus on maintaining a connection with the divine, upholding social order, and fulfilling life's duties. Here are the major categories. 1. Daily worship, puja. Purpose. Establish a personal connection with a deity or the divine. Practice. Performed at home or in temples. Includes offerings like flowers, incense, water, fruits, and food to deities. Involves chanting of mantras, lighting lamps, and sometimes ringing bells. Example: worshipping Lord Ganesha before starting a new endeavor. 2. Fire sacrifices, yajnas. Purpose: offerings to deities through fire to invoke blessings. Practice: conducted by priests, purohits, who chant Vedic hymns. Offerings like ghee, grains, and herbs are poured into the fire. Example: Agnihotra, a ritual to honor the fire god Agni. 3. Life cycle rituals, samskaras. Purpose: mark important milestones in an individual's life. Key samskaras: birth, jatakarma, rituals to welcome the newborn. Sacred thread ceremony, upanayana, initiation into education and spiritual life. Marriage, vivaham, a highly elaborate ceremony involving vows and fire rituals. Death, antieshti, cremation ceremonies to ensure the soul's transition to the next life. 4. Pilgrimages. Purpose: seek divine blessings and accumulate good karma. Examples: visiting the Ganges River for purification. Pilgrimages to sacred sites like Varanasi, Rameswaram, and Kedarnath. 5. Festivals. Purpose: celebrate deities, myths, and seasonal changes. Examples: Diwali, Festival of Lights, celebrating the victory of good over evil. Holi, Festival of Colors, signifying the arrival of spring. Navaratri/Durga Puja, dedicated to the goddess Durga. Rituals in Buddhism. Buddhist rituals emphasize mindfulness, moral discipline, and the cultivation of wisdom. They are generally simpler and more meditative, focusing on inner transformation rather than external ceremonies. The type and complexity of rituals vary by tradition: Theravada, Mahayana, and Vajrayana. 1. Meditation and mindfulness practices. Purpose: cultivate awareness, concentration, and insight. Practice: sitting or walking meditation. Focus on breathing or visualization of compassionate figures like Avalokiteshvara. Example: Vipassana meditation in Theravada Buddhism. 2. Chanting. Purpose: recite the teachings of the Buddha, Dharma, and affirm devotion. Practice: monks and lay practitioners chant sutras or verses in Pali, Sanskrit, or local languages. Common chants include the three jewels: I take refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Example: chanting the Heart Sutra in Mahayana Buddhism. 3. Offerings. Purpose: show reverence to the Buddha and accumulate merit. Practice: offerings of incense, flowers, lamps, and food at shrines or temples. These symbolize impermanence and devotion. Example: offering lotus flowers at the Mahabodhi temple in Bodh Gaya. 4. Ordination and monastic rites. Purpose: formalize entry into the monastic community Sangha. Practice: novices shave their heads and wear saffron or maroon robes. They take vows of celibacy, poverty, and simplicity. Example: a Theravada monk's ordination ceremony in Thailand. 5. Death and funeral rites. Purpose: ensure a favorable rebirth and honor the deceased. Practice: chanting sutras to guide the spirit. Burning incense and lighting lamps. Example: Vajrayana rituals for the deceased, including the Bardo Thodol, Tibetan Book of the Dead. 6. Pilgrimages. Purpose: strengthen faith and connect with the Buddha's life. Examples: visiting the 4 major sites of the Buddha's life: Lumbini, birth. Bodh Gaya, enlightenment. Sarnath, first sermon, and Kashinagar, parinirvana. 7. Festivals. Purpose. Commemorate the Buddha and significant events. Examples. Vesak celebrates the Buddha's birth, enlightenment, and death. Ulambana honors ancestors and alleviates suffering in the afterlife. Mahayana tradition. 8. Vajrayana rituals. Purpose. Use esoteric practices to achieve enlightenment swiftly. Practice. Includes tantric rituals, mantras, and mandala visualization. Requires initiation by a guru. Example. Chad ritual to confront and transcend fear. Key differences between Hindu and Buddhist rituals. Theistic versus non-theistic focus. Hindu rituals often revolve around devotion to gods, while Buddhist rituals focus on the Buddha, the Dharma, and inner transformation. Complexity. Hindu rituals tend to be more elaborate, involving fire sacrifices, sacred texts, and a range of deities. Buddhist rituals are generally simpler, with an emphasis on meditation and mindfulness. Purpose. Hindu rituals aim to fulfill duties, maintain societal order, and seek blessings. Buddhist rituals primarily aim at individual enlightenment and the cessation of suffering. Role of the priest/monk. Hindu rituals often require a priest to perform them. Buddhist rituals can be performed by monks or lay practitioners, depending on the context.